show is sponsored by PowerfulWomenUSA.com, a place to be inspired by successful women. Hey everybody, I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I'm hoping that you will be inspired to pursue your dreams, feel empowered, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. My guest today is Halle Hazzard. Halle is a world-class sprinter and competed in the 2024 Olympics, and she's a Long Islander. So I want to welcome you in, Halle. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about competing in the Olympics, and what was that like for you?
It was very surreal. I don't even know how to put it into words, but it's something that I have dreamed about since I was so little, probably since I was like 3-4 years old. So just being there I was in awe. It was very inspiring. And just being around so many amazing athletes that I've looked up to my entire life, and seeing them just walk past you in the Olympic Village.
Right,
it's
like,
just
hey.
So cool.
Right,
Yeah.
saying like, hi. What was that? So you said that was like something that you wanted since you were little.
Yes.
What was your first memory when you said, you know what, I think I'm kind of good at this. I think I want the Olympics.
So, funny thing about me is I actually didn't start out running track and field. I started out as a gymnast from the age of 3 or 4, pretty much from the time I could walk. My parents, they put me in the gym. I guess I was flipping a lot around at home. I was a pretty hyperactive kid. So they put me in gymnastics, and I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I was competing at level 5, my state championship level 5.
Wow.
And which was one of my first meets ever.
Wow.
And I ended up winning the whole thing.
Congratulations.
At 5 years old.
Oh my goodness. When every kid is just starting to learn to tumble or something, what was your favorite part? What was your favorite part of gymnastics? Were you especially good at or loved something like the bars or something?
I think when I was that young, I really loved the bars. Mm-hmm. I just loved swinging around, getting messy with all the chalk and everything. Mm-hmm. I loved tumbling. So I'd say bars and floors were definitely my favorite.
So then what happened? How did you transition to...
So I did gymnastics up until I was about 12 or 13 years old. Mm-hmm. I faced a lot of injuries, a lot of broken bones, you know how the sport goes. And I was doing it at the elite level. So I went all the way up to level 10, actually.
And what's that? I don't know. What's the level 10?
Level 10 is the level right before you hit the elite gymnastics level to go on to the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So
wow,
yeah, I was pretty far up there.
You're pretty good at everything you do, I think.
I try my best, but I was definitely I was getting hurt every single day, and my body was so battered. And at that point, it starts to I guess break down your soul and your spirit a little bit.
Sure.
So I was this just isn't for me. I want to be happy doing something that I love without battering my body.
And that was, what age were you at that point? Because that's a very mature way to think, because not many people can do that.
I think I was 12 when I started thinking like that.
Wow.
And of course, I had guidance along the way. My sister helped me a lot with that process. Mm-hmm. And she was I know your identity is so wrapped up in this sport,
Sure.
but you have to know that you could be good at other things. You could enjoy other things. You could enjoy your life. You don't have to keep putting yourself through all of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because that's so hard to get to, I feel as an adult, because we want to keep going, right? And just all the doubts that creep into your head, and you're just I'm just going to keep going because maybe people want me to be in that space, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would think so you've gotten to that far in gymnastics. You have coaches, yeah?
Yeah.
Who probably don't want to see you step away.
Exactly. So there was a lot of pressure to stay in the sport, especially from coaches,
Yeah.
who were just
Self-serving, I'm sure.
Of course, self-serving.
But wanting to the best for you, I'm sure too. So
of course. But I remember there being like a lot of guilt, a lot of like guilting me into staying, like, oh, like you're so good, like you know you shouldn't stop. It would be like wasting your talents. So there was a lot of guilting, and I think that's what kept me in it for as long as I was in it. So it was very difficult dealing with all of that, especially like as a child.
Sure.
You know, just growing up.
Yeah, I want to talk about, because I read about this article that said you and someone you grew up with is also in the training for the Olympics, or was in the Olympics, and something like your mom's friend or something. What was that?
Oh, yes, I think that was my mom's friend's daughter.
Okay.
Because my mom works at the Gerwin Jewish Geriatric Center in Comac.
Okay.
And I think one of my mom's friends, who she'd been working with for like years, her daughter was also in the Olympics playing basketball.
Wow. I mean, what are we putting in the water in Comac? Clearly, I grew up in Comac too, and I never got that. I never got that supply. But that's amazing. Yeah, two people who work together who have two Olympic children. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, I was so surprised. I was like, oh, wow.
Oh, you didn't even know?
No, I didn't even know until it aired on the news. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah, wow. All right, so I want to talk so much about, you said it was a surreal experience. At what point? I mean, because I always think like this. When you're looking around and you're like, you want to do that pinch me moment. Like, you're like, is this really happening? Like, I'm standing here, like you said, amazing athletes that you recognize and admired, and they seem different and look different in person, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, is that so-and-so? What was that moment, or who you saw who you were like, oh my gosh, is that really them? And what'd you do?
Let's see, Simone Biles. So my very first day that I was there, everyone was still arriving to the village. So it was quite empty, actually. And I was in the dining hall, and I see like the entire gymnastics team walk in.
Oh my gosh.
And like my eyes light up and my eyes just go right to Simone. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Simone Biles.
Yeah.
And one of my coaches who was next to me, he was like, go get a picture.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't want to be that person.
Oh,
that,
no.
I was like, can I get a picture?
Yeah.
I was like, she's just trying to have lunch like with her teammates.
Right. You see, you feel like you're cheesy, but I mean, you're in the Olympics too, right? So
that's very true.
Yeah. So what happened? Did you do it?
No, I admired her from afar. I think I took a picture from afar.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. So I saw her, like Suni Lee, Jade, like everybody. And it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow. Because you were in that space. You thought you would get there,
I was in that space for so long.
Yeah.
So just to see them, it was kind of like odd. It was like looking at like a parallel universe. It's like, that's what I was kind of training to be like in that space. But then, life happens and you end up a different route. So,
So what happened? So you went from gymnastics then, and how did track and field come about? At what age? And
So track and field came about high school. I was 14 when I started. Mm-hmm. I was inspired to do it by my older sister and my older brother. They had both run track in high school, and they were both amazing. Like I remember watching my sister run all her races and win them. And she was a short sprinter like me, so it was pretty cool. And then I remember watching my older brother run at Madison Square Garden. Peyton. And I was just always in awe of it. And they always looked like they were having so much fun. So I think deep down, I always wish that I could have something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you started, were you a naturally good runner, or?
Oh, gosh, no.
Well, that's even a better story then.
Yeah, I was not. So I started out running like cross country because track season doesn't start until the winter. So my mom was like, you're not going to sit around, like you're going to run cross country, you're going to do it. I think the most I could do was like the 1.5. And then once it got to like the 2.5, I was like, no, I cannot do this. Right. It was pretty tough. So then that winter season, my freshman year, we went into indoor track. And I think my first race was like a 4x4. So
Wow.
for 400 meters.
Yeah.
So when I tell you I sprinted out that first lap so fast, and then when it came time for the second lap, I was so tired and dead. I was like walking by the end of it.
Right.
And that was my first indoor track,
Wow.
my track race. So I think after that, I just like, I was laying on the ground and I was like, how am I going to get through this? Like, this is so much tougher than people make it out to seem. So
Wow. But you kept at it, obviously.
yeah,
right?
I kept at it. I kept working. Eventually I moved to like the 60 meters my sophomore year, and the 100-meter dash my sophomore year of high school. I think I was about like 15, 16 around there. So yeah, I eventually transitioned over to short sprints, which was definitely a better fit for me. Of course, I had a lot to work on in terms of like my form and technique and all that.
Yeah.
But of course, that takes years and years of practicing. So.
And who was instrumental in that? The coaches or your brother and sister? Were they?
More so my coaches, because my brother and sister, they're much older than me. My brother is 5 years older than me. My sister's like 10, 11 years older than me. So they're already like way out of the house. So
Right.
the most I could really do is just like, if I needed advice, I'd call them up on the phone or something.
Right.
But so it was really like my coaches that were helping me develop technically.
Wow.
In that sense. Yeah.
And you enjoyed it? You enjoyed it more than?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more than gymnastics because, first of all, it's high school track. It's not as serious. I felt that I could have more fun with my friends. Like I could laugh. I could, just come to practice and just enjoy myself.
Yeah.
So it was a big switch up from gymnastics for sure. And I think I was looking for an experience like that,
Right.
where I could just like let loose and just be myself and have fun running.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's your mindset for, because clearly you're a phenomenal athlete, right? And for some people, it doesn't come easy. But what is it about, your mindset? Is it, how do you approach things like that? Do you say, I'm going to give it all I got? Like, I'm in here, I'm going to do it? Or like, how do you talk yourself out of the doubts that, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not going to do this.
So that's a tough question because in high school, I think I would just be like, I'm just going to go for it. Like I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to give it all I got. And I'm just going to see if I could run faster than I did last time.
Right.
I think in college, my mindset definitely did change a little bit in that aspect because I was thinking about how to run more efficiently. Whereas in high school, I think I would just run all out with no form and just like see what I could give. But I think my mindset matured in that sense when I got to college because I really focused on my technique more. I focused on my form more. I focused on like how to take care of my body, like the right things to eat, and kind of the things that mold you into what a professional athlete needs to be in order to, succeed.
How important is nutrition?
It's so important, especially for me because definitely like since I'm a short sprinter, the longer workouts are so much harder for me. So I need to make sure that I'm eating enough fruits, enough vegetables. I'm getting my vitamins in. I have to make sure I don't skip any meals. I have breakfast, a small lunch after practice, and then a good dinner. So it really matters what I put into my body so that I could be able to, put out what I'm supposed to.
Do you follow like macros and all that stuff? Is it so precise when you're training and stuff or no?
No, I don't do that actually because I find that when I train, I burn so much
Right.
that
You could eat anything.
Yeah, I can pretty much eat anything. Just make sure it's not junk food. Make sure it's not something greasy. Just make sure it's like something healthy that I'm putting into my body.
Right.
So like a lot of like protein, carbs, vegetables, that kind of stuff.
Right. And what about sleep? How much sleep do you get? I personally think that sleep is incredibly important to everyone.
It definitely is. And I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely a night owl. So I'll stay up reading, writing, doing something.
Things you love to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then next thing you know, it's like 1 a.m. and I'm like, oh shoot, I should have been like asleep already.
Right.
So I definitely had to cut that habit as quick as I could. Whether it was like putting my phone away at a certain hour or like, closing my computer and not watching like any movies or anything.
Right, which is hard.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of discipline for sure. And it's something I'm still learning to this day.
Right. So when you're training, you were training, you're taking a break, you said, right now. So why? Let's go into that. Why did you decide to take a break? You competed in the 2024 Olympics. Yeah. So now what? Why did you want to take a break?
So I will say training for the Olympics, it is like it takes everything out of you.
Yeah.
Body, spirit, like it's definitely a lot. And I feel that when I was training professionally, I didn't get to explore any of my other interests that I have in life, especially like because I can't, no one can run forever. No one can be an athlete forever.
Right.
So I think it was always bothering me that I couldn't explore my other interests, like in writing and journalism and like documentary filmmaking. And I feel like a part of me is very creative, and I like to just like storytell. I like to, make things. I like to look back on something and be like, oh, like I made that. Like that's really beautiful.
Right.
So I think the fact that I wasn't fulfilling that part of myself was definitely eating at me inside. So I think after the Olympics, I was like, you know what? The next one isn't until another 4 years. Like I have so much time. Let me just take this year to, figure out what I want to do, like outside of track,
right.
And utilize my degree and my other talents.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting, right? Because that goes into my question now of what do you feel like you've had to sacrifice over the last few years just to compete in the Olympics? Is it relationships? Is it everything, right?
I want to say it's everything really. Because I was training in South Carolina. So I was away from my family for like 2 years, which was kind of hard.
Sure.
Just like trying to find time to go back home, trying to keep up. My sister just had 2 babies, so I was
missed out on that.
So I missed out on that. And then also my parents like constantly worrying about me, just like being like living by myself. In South Carolina.
Yeah.
There was constant worry with that, like, oh, is she okay? Is she eating enough? That kind of thing. And then also just like, also being away from like my friends at home,
Sure.
Not really being able to see them. And it's kind of like their schedule is so different from mine because I don't really know anyone who's a professional athlete, like outside of my training group.
Right.
So I feel like our lives were definitely on like different, I don't know how to call it, but like different wavelengths for sure.
Sure.
So yeah, all of that. And it definitely could get lonely at some times because you're basically just chasing this dream all on your own. And of course, like you have the support at home and everything, but they're not like physically there.
Right.
So every day you have to find ways to motivate yourself.
So how did you do that? That's tough.
It is tough.
That's a tough thing, especially right when you said like it can be isolating because it's a whole nother world, really, right? It's
really
your
is.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I journaled a lot. I would journal about how I was feeling. I would journal about like how practice would go that day. I don't know. What did I even do? Sometimes I would distract myself with like watching shows and stuff, like outside of training. Or I would like go out and like get some ice cream or get like an acai bowl.
Right.
To just like take the edge off of things and just relax. So kind of doing a lot of self-care.
Yeah.
And just things that make me happy,
Do you find that quiet time, like meditation, do you do things like that or no?
I would do yoga. Good thing you brought that up.
Yeah.
I would constantly go to yoga class, like 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it helped me so much because first it would help with my flexibility, which was important for training. Then it would help with like my mind and my spirit to kind of just like calm the nerves, like hone things in. And just it's a form of self-care, really.
It's so important.
It's so important.
Yeah. And you're finding that. I mean, you're still young, you know, I mean, you're 24,
25.
25. You're still young. And to learn the importance of those things now is amazing, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
It definitely helped me get through that period. And it helped me feel more balanced in a way. Cause you know, I had my training, my weights, then I had my yoga in the evening, and then after I would go like get a little treat for myself after. So it helped put a schedule on my life, and it helped make things not feel so, you know, out of control. Yeah.
Right. All right. We'll be back with Halle Hazzard after the commercial break. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. If you love what you're listening to, head to powerfulwomenusa.com for previous shows, and you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Amazon Music, the whole deal. Share this with a friend. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Halle Hazzard is here. She is a world-class sprinter and competed in the 2024 Olympics. Halle, we were talking in the break about mindset and how far you've come and how it is not common for people to get into the Olympics, right? I mean, out of the millions and millions of athletes, you got there, and not only did you excel at gymnastics, but you're an incredible runner, and you've won so many medals throughout high school and college. So when we talk about mindset, and we were kind of talking about this, it's so hard for anyone, and certainly I'm sure at your level, to say, keep going, like just eye on the prize, right? Like just keep going when maybe your body doesn't want to keep going, right? When you need a break. So I just find it so incredible. So how do you say silence that voice, that negative voice, Halle? Like, how do I keep going?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So I want to say first that negative voice never truly goes away. It's always definitely there for sure. But for me, it was always prioritizing, you know, what matters to me, what I want to accomplish, and kind of me going, all right, I don't want to look back in 5 years and regret that I didn't do this and this and so and so. So it was mainly me just trying to be like, okay, I want to cross this off my bucket list. I've had this on my list for so long.
God bless you. It was on my bucket list too, but it doesn't happen. Doesn't happen for everybody. Go ahead.
So it was definitely that, just crossing off a dream that had been on my list for so long. And I think my parents definitely had to do with that, of me having that mindset of going after whatever I dream. So they had been pushing me since I was so little, just to like have that mindset and to be like, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do this. Don't let anyone tell you that, you know, you're not talented enough for this. Like you have it. You just need to believe in yourself and go after it.
Oh gosh, I love that. Yeah. I wanted to talk about mental health, and we know it's so important, especially in high-level athletes like you, who are under so much pressure all the time. So we talk about how you kind of handle stress and you kind of go, you know, take a little break. Simone Biles really brought this into the foreground and really talked about the importance of mental health and how the Olympics are it's probably a pressure cooker, right? So what did you think about when she spoke out about it and she stepped away? What did you think about that?
I thought it was the bravest thing anyone could do because she opened a whole Pandora's box that like, I would think that a lot of athletes understood because we had been in those high pressure situations before.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that weren't athletes wouldn't understand because they had never really been in our shoes, where so much is at stake, and there's so much pressure riding on you. So when she spoke out, it definitely hit me in a way that was very close to home.
Yeah.
And I think since then, I have been more open about talking about my mental health and how I'm feeling. Of course, it's not the easiest to talk about, especially with people who don't really understand, or weren't brought up to kind of be that like emotionally open and intelligent. So it's definitely still a struggle to talk to like certain people about it, but the ones who get it really do get it.
Right.
And that allows me to open up in ways that, I couldn't even imagine when I was younger. So
Right. It's like unlocking so much of our mind and our mindset, right? It's so true. It is an emotional intelligence, because I feel like once you start tuning into that, and I don't think as a culture, as a world, we've tapped into completely the mind-body connection, and how it has a direct effect on our performance and how we physically feel, our mind, our thoughts. But so you say that you try to talk to someone, which is, do they allow that? Like, do they bring someone in when when you're at the Olympics, or do they allow people to come in to kind of help people and gear them, or is that your coach?
So for me, I had a sports therapist throughout that entire season. That was provided to me by the country that I represented.
Yeah.
So I used her for like 5-6 months, like as much as I could, leading up to the Olympics and even a little bit after. So she wasn't physically at the games, but I would do like Zoom calls with her every week. Yeah. And it helped me so much, because thinking back now, I don't know how I would have gotten through if I didn't have someone to, talk to about everything that I was feeling.
Yeah. And some of it is obviously, like you said, you're under pressure. So it's got to be anxiety. It's got to be, right. A lot of athletes I was reading, which I didn't even know about, or really thought about, is they can become depressed. Maybe they didn't perform well and they get depressed because they're so hard on themselves. Did you find that? I mean, amongst your teammates, where did you see that in other people as well? Like, just like, oh my gosh, they're so hard. I mean, we're all so hard on ourselves. Yeah. But when you're on a world stage like that, it's got to be like, what are my parents thinking? I'll be disappointed, or someone will be disappointed in me, and I'll be disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's tough, because I feel like in the track and field world, a lot of people, they like to put up a front. They like to act like
everyone does, okay. Right?
Yeah,
sure.
But I'm sure that there's so many athletes out there who wasn't happy with their performance, and they show it in different ways. So it's definitely tough. For me, I was definitely dealing with a lot of the anxiety and kind of like that, like post-race depression kind of thing. Because I'm not going to lie, last season was very, very tough for me. I spent like half of the season I was fighting injuries and just like struggling to get by. So
that's very hard.
Yeah, it is very hard. Yeah. So the fact that I was even able to get out there and get on that line, thinking back now, I'm like, how did I do that?
Right.
Just looking back at the season that I had.
Well, what were some of your injuries, like pulls
Yeah, just like hamstring strains,
which is very painful.
Yeah, I was having like tendonitis in my foot, kind of like those nitpicky things that just like ache at you.
Yeah.
So at the time, like, it's very annoying.
Right.
But you do your best to kind of get the treatment that you need, whether it's getting a massage, acupuncture, ice bath, those kinds of things. Just prioritizing, what your body needs to, I guess, like, make it through as much as you could. But it was definitely tough for me. And even at the Olympics, because like whenever I run, I always say like I could have done better. Like I could have competed better. So I was definitely saying that to myself after my race. I was like, oh, I could have done better. I could have done this or that. But then I remember my mom telling me, she's just like, Halle, she was like, you did it. Like you went out there and you did it. Yep. You gave it everything you could. Like I'm so proud of you. Like. Yeah, so I think it was just moments like that. I look back on those moments and I'm just like, okay. Like it was definitely tough, but I made it through as much as I could. Yeah.
I mean, you achieved so much. I mean, I hope you give yourself credit for that. And now that you're taking a break, maybe you'll keep going to the next Olympics, or maybe not. Maybe you just figure it out, right? Yeah,
I'm playing it by ear and just by how I feel. Just taking it 1 year at a time, honestly. Like I said, I'm going to take this year off, and if next year I want to come back to the sport, then I'll come back for sure. But I think I definitely need that time to decompress and just, I guess, process everything that's happened in the past year. So,
is this the first time you've ever really been able to do that, to take a break and kind of?
Yeah,
wow.
Honestly, yes, because I've been going nonstop since college, since high school. I've never taken a season off.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So I think that's why this time period is so odd for me, because usually I would be getting ready for indoor season, or preparing for like the next, I don't know, the next world or the next, big meet, something like that. But
this is the find yourself time.
Yeah, it's definitely a find myself time. Yeah. So it's so interesting. It's fun. It's scary. It's a lot of different things, but I'm looking forward to whatever comes next.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's just, that's amazing. When we talk about, this is your break, what was a training day like? What was your typical training day like? Was it like, what time did you get up?
Ooh, let's see. I think I would get up at probably 8 o'clock, 8:30. I would go to practice for 9:30, 10. And then after practice would go from maybe like 10 to 12 or like 10 to 1. And then we would do weight training at 2 o'clock, I believe, from like 2 to maybe 3:30. And then after that, I would go home, take a shower, get something to eat, maybe go to yoga for like 5 o'clock, 5:30. And then I come back home, I eat dinner, prepare for the next day, and then it just goes on loop.
Right. So every day is like that. You don't get a day. Do you take a day off? Is there
Usually we would have one day off. Like Wednesday and Sunday was usually our days off. Sometimes we wouldn't get Wednesday off though.
Right.
So sometimes it would just be Sunday. Yeah.
Was there a time at 8:31 where you were like, I do not want to get out of bed today?
Oh, yes. Because I'm not a morning person to begin with.
Yeah.
So I think 8:30, it was a good time for me, because it wasn't like 6 a.m. Of course, it could always be worse.
Right.
But there were days where I'm just like, I really just want to stay in my bed and sleep. Like my body's still hurting from yesterday's practice or from yesterday's lift. I would love to just like lay here and take the day off, but you can't do that.
So what did you tell yourself?
I say,
as you're laying there,
oh goodness, I say, I gotta get up, I gotta work.
Yeah.
We have meets coming up, we have things to accomplish, so I can't stay in bed.
Yeah.
And then what would also get me up is like, I would think to myself, okay, if I miss this day of practice, I'm going to feel guilty later on in the week. I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, like I missed a day. Like that's not good.
Right.
Which I don't know if that's necessarily healthy, but it definitely got me up and out of the bed.
Right. Because then you could kick yourself later and say, if only I got up those other days,
Exactly.
If only, gosh, that if only could hurts us all. I think
it really does. It really does.
Yeah. So, all right. So you said the next few years, well, this year you're taking off and then you're going to figure out things, but, you might go into writing. Are you going to kind of focus on that too, or?
Yes, I would love to. Writing, filmmaking, really anything in that field I would just love to delve more into.
Yeah. Well, you got your master's. You should.
Yes, I have my master's in specialized journalism from University of Southern California, the Annenberg program. It was a really cool experience going there, and I even got to create my own documentary that aired on Spectrum One News in Los Angeles, California. And I did a sports documentary about mental health in women's elite gymnastics. So I feel like it was, while I was making it, it was also like teaching lessons to myself as well, because it was experiences that I went through. So, when finding someone to interview, when finding kind of like the star of my documentary, I knew exactly what to look for,
right.
And what to talk about and what questions to ask when interviewing.
Right.
So I think that experience opened up like a whole new world for me. Like, okay, I could continue to, create stories like this and continue to make a difference and bring awareness to situations that many people might not know about.
Right.
So if I could keep doing that in the future, that would be great. Yeah.
I read something that said like there's such a difference between how men are viewed and handle stress and their tantrums, we'll say, in certain sports. As I can see tennis and all these things where they're throwing their racket, and women, if they do the same thing, it's viewed very differently, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's a very different narrative.
Yeah.
So what do you say about things like that? Obviously, things have to change, continue to change in the world of elite sports.
Yeah. Only thing I have to say about that is it's not really fair that, men could express themselves in that way and not really be, not really be like hated for it at all.
Right.
Meanwhile, if women do like anything, even in the slightest, like give a little yell or something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like what's wrong with her? Like, oh, she's out of control. Like, why is she acting like that?
Yeah.
There definitely is a bias. And I think as women, we shouldn't be afraid to show our emotions, because I definitely think it bottles us up inside. And it's not good for us and like who we are and, who we want to be. So I think breaking those barriers is definitely important.
Yeah. It's interesting as you speak about that, I think of, going back to Simone Biles, and for the most part, I feel like, I thought what she did was incredible, stepping back and talking about how important her mental health was.
Yeah.
But also she, as social media will tell you, not all of the response was a favorable one. Some people criticized her for that. And I thought that was so crazy. It was shocking.
Yeah.
Were you shocked by someone? Did you pay attention to it, or you kind of didn't pay attention to that?
I definitely paid attention to it. And I wasn't surprised by the amount of like hate she got afterwards.
Yeah.
Because it was such a topic that so many people didn't understand. And I feel like as athletes, we're always put on a different pedestal than everybody else. Like, we're looked at to be these superhumans, when in reality, we're just human beings with emotions, So I think it took a lot of humanizing for people to understand, what she was going through, the mental and emotional toll that she was dealing with, like, for all these years. It took a lot of understanding. And I think a lot of people have come around to it. Some people aren't quite there as yet, but it's going to take a while, like a whole cultural shift that, thankfully she already started.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to take a whole cultural shift to, really humanize athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the best advice you've ever gotten when it comes to doing your thing?
Ooh, the best advice.
I know I threw that at you, right? Yeah. Or, even better. Think about that. But what advice would you give to girls, women, whoever, who are thinking, I think I'm going to go for that Olympics in whatever sport. I think I'm going for it full on. What advice would you give?
I would say follow your heart and, don't stop chasing that dream until you catch it. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So now, is that the advice you give yourself sometimes? Keep going.
Yeah, that is the advice that I would give myself. Because I I would always tell myself, like, okay, Halle, like, keep going. You're almost there. Like you could see the goal. Like, you could see the dream. Like, it's in your reach. So just don't give up. Don't stop.
Who's been the most important, mentor to you, coach or, someone in your family or?
Let's see, man. I would say probably my family. Definitely my brother, because he also ran for Grenada. He was a 400-meter sprinter. So he had competed at all those high-level meets before. So I would always look to him for advice. And even like if I would go out there and I would compete and I'd be like, oh man, like I don't think I did that well. He would be like, Halle, like, don't worry. Like, I understand what it's like to be on that stage. Like, you shouldn't put so much pressure on yourself. Like, you're doing amazing. Like, I don't even know if I could do what you did. So he says things to me like that, and it really helps a lot, and it helps, like, calm me down. And it just helps, I guess, put things more into perspective. Yeah.
I've met him. I've met your brother Peyton, and he always has a smile on his face, I think.
Yeah.
Always. He's always... It looks like mid-laugh. He's having a great time.
Yeah.
And I think he's onto something. I think there's a secret to a wonderful life there.
There really must be, because he always has a smile on his face. He's always laughing or joking about something. So it's like a ray of sunshine to be around.
And I think to so many people, because he's been coaching and training kids, for the last few years, my son, one of them, who think he's the greatest thing. And he's like, he's always in a good mood.
Yeah, he is.
And it seems like you always have a smile on your face just sitting across from you. You're always, I mean, I think it's a glow about you, the Olympic glow. But I think it's amazing. And I think your advice to people who are thinking about taking the next level, not only in sports, but really in any way, is so powerful. Just keep going.
Yeah, keep going. Don't give up. Yeah. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't achieve your dreams.
Oh, gosh. It's so important. So, all right. I think that's it for us. I think I just want to say thank you so much to Halle Hazzard for coming on the show. You've been listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Head to powerfulwomenusa.com to get on the newsletter, listen to previous shows. I'm Jill Conway, and thank you for listening to the show, celebrating and empowering women. I really hope that you are inspired to pursue your goals, believe in yourself, and dream bigger. I'm here to remind you that your voice matters and that your story has power. I hope you join me next time.